She's too old for you. That's what my friend told me when I mentioned dating Sophia, a 45-year-old Filipina I met online. With her warm smile and nurturing presence, Sophia immediately felt like home to me. 3 years later, that same friend was asking me how I found such a wonderful partner. In today's video, I'm going to share why older Filipinos often make the most loving, stable, and fulfilling partners for Western men. If you've been overlooking women over 35 in your search for a Filipina wife, you might be missing out on your perfect match. Let me show you what many men don't realize until it's too late. The age misconception. Let's talk about a fascinating disconnect that shapes the dating landscape for Western men interested in Filipino relationships. Many Western men instinctively set their dating filters to exclude women over 35, especially when looking internationally. This age barrier isn't random. It's the product of powerful cultural programming that runs deep in Western societies. From Hollywood's persistent casting of younger women opposite aging male leads, to advertising that celebrates youth as the pinnacle of feminine value, Western men absorb thousands of subtle messages that reinforce this bias. Dating apps amplify this further, with their emphasis on youthful photos and age-based filtering systems that make it easy to exclude potential partners based solely on birth year. This Western fixation on youth creates a cultural blind spot when men venture into international relationships. While Western media portrays aging women as diminishing in value, Filipino culture operates on an entirely different framework, one where a woman's worth and status actually increase with age. In traditional Filipino communities, a woman in her 40s or 50s commands greater respect than her younger counterparts, precisely because of her accumulated wisdom and life experience. The Filipino concept of galang sa nakatatanda, respect for elders, creates a social framework where age brings increased status and authority. Older women are often seen as the backbone of Filipino families, taking on important roles as decision-makers and keepers of cultural traditions. This elevated position contradicts Western media portrayals that frequently render women invisible as they age. This cultural clash creates a peculiar blind spot for Western men seeking relationships in the Philippines. Many arrive with firmly established age parameters, automatically filtering out precisely the women who might make the most compatible life partners. This limitation stems from cultural assumptions that don't translate accurately across cultural boundaries. The misconceptions about older Filipinos are specific and pervasive. Western men often assume older Filipinos have less energy or enthusiasm for life, yet Filipino culture emphasizes vitality and family engagement regardless of age. Others worry about language barriers being greater with older women, not realizing that English proficiency among Filipinos often increases with age due to educational opportunities and work experience. Some Western men avoid older Filipinas, believing they'll be more traditional in ways that might limit relationship dynamics. This misses the reality that older Filipinas often possess greater independence and self-assurance while still embracing the relational values that attracted these men to Filipino culture initially. James, an American who married a Filipina in her mid-40s after initially searching exclusively for women under 30, shares, "I had this image completely based on Western standards. When I accidentally matched with Maricel due to an app glitch, I almost didn't respond. Now I can't imagine my life without her strength. She brings energy and passion for life that surprised me completely." Richard, a 55-year-old Australian, echoes this experience. "I came to the Philippines looking for someone in her 20s. After unsatisfying connections, I started dating Lorna, who was 42. The difference was remarkable. She knew who she was and had the emotional maturity to build something real." These experiences highlight how Western men often unconsciously seek relationships that confirm their existing worldview rather than remaining open to authentic connection. They project their culture's youth obsession onto Filipino society without questioning whether these values translate effectively. The psychology behind this age bias often involves deeper insecurities. Some Western men believe a younger partner will be more impressionable or easier to mold, a problematic assumption that creates inequality from the start. Others worry that choosing an older partner might reflect negatively on their own desirability among peers who share youth-oriented values. What these men discover when they open themselves to relationships with older Filipinas often transforms their perspective. Beyond emotional maturity and life wisdom, they find partners with established identities who bring confidence to the relationship. They discover women who have successfully navigated life's challenges and developed resilience that translates directly into relationship stability. Mark, who married a Filipina 15 years his senior, explains, "Linda brings a calm confidence to our marriage. She doesn't create drama where none exists. When genuine problems arise, she approaches them with patience and perspective instead of reactivity." The timing of these realizations follows a pattern. Many Western men first exhaust their preconceived options, dating exclusively younger women, only to find these relationships lacking substance. Only after experiencing disappointment firsthand do they question their assumptions and expand their parameters. This resistance to dating older Filipinas stems from applying Western standards where they don't predict relationship success. Western beauty standards poorly translate to a culture where facial lines signify wisdom rather than flaws, where a woman's contribution to family outweighs adherence to media-driven ideals. Even men who reject other cultural biases often maintain rigid age parameters without examining the assumptions behind them. This selective cultural adaptation, embracing some Filipino values while clinging to Western age standards, creates a fundamental inconsistency. What changes these perspectives isn't intellectual argument, but direct experience. When Western men interact with older Filipinas, whether through chance encounters or expanded search parameters, they discover qualities that transcend their limitations. The contrast between expectation and reality becomes impossible to ignore. This pattern reveals something important. Age-based preferences in cross-cultural dating often reflect cultural programming rather than genuine compatibility assessment. When Western men prioritize youth, they're responding to external cultural messaging rather than identifying what creates lasting relationship satisfaction in their specific circumstances. Life experience is relationship currency. What many Western men don't realize until they're already in a relationship with an older Filipina is that age represents far more than just the passage of time. It's an accumulation of experiences that fundamentally shapes how a woman approaches partnership. Those years have been filled with navigating real economic uncertainty, supporting family through genuine crises, and overcoming professional challenges in a developing economy. These experiences create relationship skills that simply cannot be found in dating profiles or photographs. Growing up in a developing economy creates a fundamentally different relationship with money and resources. Many middle-aged Filipinos have experienced periods of financial hardship, teaching them practical approaches to saving and resource management that become invaluable in a marriage. This wisdom comes through necessity, not from books or financial advisors. This economic background translates into women who bring financial responsibility and realistic expectations to relationships. An older Filipina typically understands the difference between needs and wants, often preferring stability over extravagance. Marami, a 35-year-old Filipina working as a human resource officer and marketing manager, exemplifies this mindset. She explicitly states she's not looking for financial support from a future husband and has her own career ambitions. This demonstrates the proactive approach to financial independence that many older Filipinas develop, seeing marriage as a partnership where both contribute rather than a financial arrangement. In Filipino culture, women frequently shoulder the primary burden of caring for children, elderly parents, and extended family members. This involves emotional support, practical household management, and sometimes financial assistance to relatives experiencing hardship. These family obligations foster patience, resilience, and a profound sense of duty, qualities that directly transfer to romantic relationships. A woman who has spent years balancing the needs of multiple family members typically develops extraordinary emotional intelligence and conflict resolution skills. When disagreements arise in a marriage, she approaches them with the same measured response she's used to navigate family crises for decades. The emphasis on family in Filipino culture also means that older Filipinas are accustomed to prioritizing others' needs, creating a more nurturing environment within a marriage. As one cultural observer noted, dating a Filipina often means dating her whole family, highlighting how deeply family connections influence their approach to relationships. Consider Maria, who at 42 faced a critical moment when her American husband lost his job during the economic downturn. While he panicked about their financial future, Maria calmly created a household budget that cut expenses by 30% without sacrificing essential needs. She then organized a small home-based business, selling Filipino delicacies to supplement their income. "I watched her transform our crisis into an opportunity," her husband recalled. "That's when I understood how her years of managing family resources through tough times in the Philippines had prepared her for anything life threw at us." Professional challenges represent a third area where older Filipinas gain valuable experience that enhances their capacity as partners. Despite making significant educational advances in recent decades, many middle-aged Filipinas have faced substantial obstacles in pursuing their career goals. Economic constraints, limited opportunities, and sometimes cultural expectations have required them to develop remarkable determination and adaptability. These professional journeys foster problem-solving skills and the ability to balance multiple responsibilities simultaneously, capabilities that directly enhance relationship quality. A woman who has successfully navigated workplace politics and professional setbacks typically brings those same strategic thinking skills to partnership challenges. The independence and self-reliance developed through career challenges also contributes to more balanced partnerships. Women who have established professional identities bring confidence and purpose to relationships beyond their role as partners. This creates marriages built on mutual respect rather than dependency. Perhaps most significant is how these combined life experiences affect relationship stability and conflict resolution. Having weathered decades of life's inevitable ups and downs, older Filipinas typically possess deeper understanding of human nature, greater emotional intelligence, and more realistic expectations about relationships. This translates directly into increased patience during conflicts and the ability to distinguish between minor irritations and serious issues. The cumulative effect of these experiences creates women who are generally less likely to engage in relationship drama or prioritize emotional reactions over long-term goals. As one Western husband explained about his 43-year-old Filipina wife, "When we disagree, she doesn't escalate things. She'll state her position calmly, listen to mine, and then focus on finding a solution we can both live with." That maturity saves us from so many of the arguments I experienced in previous relationships. This approach to conflict resolution doesn't mean older Filipinas emotionally detached. They're known for their affectionate personalities and emotional warmth. The difference is that their emotional responses are typically tempered by perspective and wisdom. They've learned through experience that relationships require both heart and head. The real-world impact of these life experiences becomes evident in how older Filipinas manage relationship expectations. Rather than harboring idealized notions of romance, they typically value substance over superficiality. They understand that lasting relationships are built on mutual respect, shared values, and consistent support. This grounded perspective often comes as a refreshing change for Western men accustomed to relationships with higher emotional volatility. One American husband described the difference. With my Filipino wife, there's a steadiness I never experienced before. We still have disagreements, but they don't become existential crises. She approaches problems with a calmness that comes from having faced much bigger challenges in her life. It's important to recognize that these experiences don't make older Filipinos perfect partners. No such person exists. What they do provide is a foundation of skills and perspectives that contribute to relationship resilience. The same challenges that have sometimes created hardship have also forged strength, patience, and wisdom that younger women simply haven't had the opportunity to develop. Cultural foundations of resilience. The remarkable resilience we've discussed isn't merely a product of personal experience, but stems from powerful cultural foundations rarely understood by outsiders. While Western societies often celebrate individualism and self-reliance during hardship, Filipino culture has developed an entirely different framework, one where no one faces life's storms alone. This cultural architecture forms the bedrock of how older Filipinos approach challenges in relationships and life. Like a centuries-old stone bridge that has weathered countless typhoons yet remains standing, Filipino resilience emerges from a tapestry of interconnected support systems that distribute the weight of life's burdens across many pillars. The concept of peace stands as one of the most profound cultural forces shaping how Filipinos respond to adversity. Peace represents a deeply ingrained ability to persevere through difficult situations with unwavering patience, maintaining optimism and inner strength even when circumstances seem overwhelming. For older Filipinos who have practiced this cultural value throughout decades of life challenges, peace becomes second nature, equipping them with exceptional emotional resources for navigating relationship difficulties. Consider how this contrasts with typical Western approaches to hardship, where American or European cultures might emphasize standing your ground or fighting back against challenges. This focuses on weathering the storm with dignity and hope. This fundamental difference creates partners who don't immediately seek escape routes when relationships encounter inevitable rough patches. Maria, a 47-year-old Filipina married to a Canadian man, demonstrated this resilience when her husband's business collapsed during the economic downturn. Rather than panic or withdraw emotional support, she drew upon her peace mindset. I told him, "We've survived worse. This is just another mountain to climb together." Her husband later remarked that her steadfast presence gave him the strength to rebuild both his business and confidence. Building upon this foundation of personal resilience is the Bayanihan spirit, a cultural practice of community support that actively promotes mutual assistance during times of need. This collective action ensures no individual faces hardship in isolation. This communal approach stands in stark contrast to Western individualism, where couples often face their problems behind closed doors with minimal outside support. Elena, a 52-year-old Filipina married to an Australian, activated her Bayanihan network when her husband needed emergency surgery. Within hours, her Filipino friends and family had organized a support system providing meals, household help, and emotional encouragement. Her husband was astonished by this natural mobilization of community resources, something he had never experienced in his previous marriage to an Australian woman. Religious faith, particularly Catholicism, serves as another powerful pillar supporting resilience. For many older Filipinos, religion provides a central framework, offering comfort, hope, and meaning during life's challenges. This faith encourages perseverance and forgiveness, two critical components of successful long-term relationships. The spiritual dimension offers a unique perspective on suffering. Rather than viewing hardships as purely negative, many older Filipinos see challenges as opportunities for spiritual growth and deeper connection. This transcendent perspective helps couples move through difficulties with greater purpose and fewer feelings of victimhood. When Lorna and her American husband struggled with infertility, her faith provided not just personal comfort, but a shared framework for processing their grief. "My wife's spiritual strength carried us both," her husband explained. "She found meaning in our struggle that I couldn't see. It helped us accept our situation while still moving forward together." The cultural value of Pakikisama, maintaining harmonious relationships, further reinforces how older Filipinos approach conflict resolution. Within marriage, Pakikisama translates to a commitment to open communication, understanding, and compromise. This doesn't mean avoiding problems. Rather, they typically approach difficulties with a dedication to preserving harmony while working through issues. The focus remains on resolution rather than winning arguments or assigning blame, a refreshing approach for many Western men accustomed to more confrontational conflict styles. Traditional Filipino views on marriage as a sacred, lifelong commitment also contribute significantly to relationship resilience. Unlike societies where divorce is readily available, Filipino culture emphasizes weathering hardships together. This foundation creates a psychological safety net that allows couples to work through problems with the underlying assumption that the relationship itself isn't at risk. James, a British expatriate married to a 45-year-old Filipina for 12 years, observed this difference after a serious marital conflict. "With my ex-wife, every big argument carried an implicit threat that the relationship might end. With my Filipino wife, even in our worst moments, I never doubt her commitment to making our marriage work. That security changes everything about how we resolve problems." These cultural elements create a practical framework for addressing real-life challenges. When financial difficulties arise, the combination of endurance, community support, and religious faith empowers older Filipinos to maintain emotional stability while actively seeking solutions. Their approach typically balances pragmatism with optimism, acknowledging difficulties without being defined by them. During health crises, these same cultural strengths enable extraordinary caregiving capabilities. Many Western men married to older Filipinas share stories of dedicated support during illness that goes beyond typical expectations. This stems from cultural values that prioritize relationship commitments above personal convenience. Communication challenges, often amplified in cross-cultural relationships, benefit from the harmonious principles of Pakikisama. Rather than escalating misunderstandings, older Filipinos typically employ a balanced approach that preserves dignity while working toward mutual understanding. Their communication style during difficulties tends to focus on solutions rather than blame. Even career setbacks take on different dimensions when viewed through this cultural lens. The mindset of resilient endurance encourages perseverance without resentment, while community support provides both practical and emotional resources during transitions. Many Western husbands report that their older Filipino wives became their greatest supporters during professional challenges, offering both strength and practical assistance. The impact of these cultural foundations becomes most evident during the inevitable storms that all relationships face. When couples encounter serious challenges, the cultural resources older Filipinos bring to the partnership create remarkable stability, combining emotional steadiness with practical problem solving. Family-centered worldview. When a Filipina says, "I do," she's making a promise that extends far beyond just you and her, and this invisible support system might be the real secret to why these marriages thrive where others fail. While Western marriages increasingly resemble arrangements between independent individuals with separate lives, older Filipinas operate from an entirely different blueprint, one where marriage represents the joining of entire family networks, not just two people. This fundamental difference begins with how marriage itself is conceptualized. In the Philippines, matrimony isn't merely a legal contract between two autonomous adults seeking companionship and romantic fulfillment. It represents the formal connection between extended families, creating bonds that span generations. This perspective transforms everything from daily decision-making to holiday celebrations. Consider how Western marriage has evolved over recent decades. The modern Western ideal often emphasizes individual fulfillment, personal growth, and the pursuit of happiness as primary goals. Couples frequently maintain separate bank accounts, independent social circles, and distinct identities. Success is measured by how well each partner can maintain autonomy while sharing living space. The prevailing question becomes, is this relationship serving my needs? By contrast, older Filipinos typically approach marriage from a collectivist mindset that places family cohesion at the center. Their guiding question is fundamentally different. How do our actions serve our combined family's well-being? Happiness itself is understood differently, arising from harmonious family relationships and fulfilled responsibilities rather than personal achievement or independence. When an older Filipina marries a Western man, she actively works to integrate him into her existing family structure while simultaneously building bridges to his family. Miguel, an American who married Rosalinda at 46, describes his experience. Within weeks of our engagement, I was included in every family decision, from her nephew's education plans to her mother's medical treatments. At first, I found it overwhelming, but I soon realized this wasn't intrusion, it was inclusion. They were making me truly family. Picture a typical Sunday gathering in a Filipino household after such a marriage. The air fills with the aroma of simmering adobo and freshly steamed rice. 3 generations crowd around a table designed for 8 but somehow accommodating 15. Conversation flows in a mixture of English and Tagalog, punctuated by laughter. The Western husband finds himself being taught traditional card games by elderly uncles, while his nieces practice their English with him. His mother-in-law quietly places extra portions on his plate, patting his shoulder as she passes. In these moments, cultural differences dissolve into a tapestry of genuine connection and belonging. This family-centered orientation creates powerful benefits for cross-cultural marriages. It establishes a built-in support system when challenges arise, whether financial difficulties, health concerns, or relationship conflicts. The couple doesn't face them alone. They have access to wisdom, emotional support, and practical assistance from a network of people invested in their success. David, who married Elena at 52, explains, "But I lost my job unexpectedly. My wife's family stepped in without hesitation. Her brother offered temporary work at his business. Her sister watched our children when we needed to attend interviews. Even her elderly mother contributed by cooking meals. They mobilized like a well-coordinated team with our family's welfare as their mission." The family-centered approach also creates continuity through traditions and celebrations that strengthen bonds. Older Filipinas typically take the lead in maintaining cultural practices that connect generations, elaborate Christmas celebrations, special foods prepared for birthdays, or annual reunions that bring scattered family members together. These traditions provide structure and meaning that transcend daily challenges. For Western men, accustomed to more atomized family structures, this integration can initially feel foreign, but ultimately provides profound benefits. Robert, married to Marisol for 8 years, reflects, "In America, my family scattered after college. We'd meet for occasional holidays, but lived separate lives. Now, our home has become a hub where family regularly gathers. I've gone from having occasional family interactions to being part of a vibrant community." This family-centered worldview particularly influences how conflicts are handled. In the Filipino context, conflicts are addressed with constant awareness of how they affect the broader family unit. This doesn't mean suppressing disagreements, but rather approaching them with the goal of restoring harmony rather than establishing who's right. James describes how his wife Victoria's approach transformed their marriage. When we disagree, she reminds me, we need to fix this for everyone who depends on our stability. It completely changes the stakes and helps us find solutions faster. The involvement of family creates accountability that strengthens commitment. When marriage is understood as binding families together, the decision to separate affects many more people than just the couple. This creates natural incentives to work through difficulties rather than abandon the relationship when challenges arise. Additional motivation to find sustainable solutions. For international marriages, this approach provides unique advantages. Cross-cultural couples often struggle with feeling rootless, disconnected from either partner's background. The Filipino family system offers immediate belonging, creating a community where the foreign spouse can develop new connections and identity, preventing the isolation that often contributes to failed international relationships. The family-centered approach extends to financial matters as well. While Western couples often emphasize financial independence, older Filipinos typically view resources as belonging to the extended family unit. This perspective can lead to pooled resources that provide greater security for all members, creating a safety net that benefits everyone during difficult times. This approach does require adaptation from Western partners. Men who enter these relationships expecting complete autonomy over decisions or exclusive priority in their wife's attention may experience frustration. However, those who embrace the family-centered model often discover unexpected benefits, including greater emotional support, practical assistance during difficulties, and a sense of belonging that transcends cultural differences. The Matriarchal Advantage. Those extended family connections create a support system unlike anything in Western culture, but they also reveal something far more surprising about the power dynamics at play. Many men who seek Asian wives with assumptions about traditional submission are in for a revelation. The Philippines operates on a matriarchal foundation that places women at the center of household power and decision-making. This reality contradicts the common Western stereotype about Asian marriages, where men often expect to find the submissive wife who defers to her husband in all matters. The Philippines presents a fascinating contradiction, a society that values traditional family structures while simultaneously empowering women as central figures in those very families. This dynamic often catches Western men completely off guard when they first encounter it. Filipino society has deep matriarchal roots that manifest most visibly in household management. While men might officially hold the title of head of household in public settings, step inside a typical Filipino home and you'll discover a different reality. Women are often the true administrators of daily life, wielding considerable influence over everything from budgeting to major family decisions. In Filipino households, mothers and grandmothers manage the family finances with remarkable precision. They control the entire family budget, allocate resources, and make investment decisions. This represents a profound trust in women's financial judgment that permeates Filipino culture. This financial stewardship stems from a cultural recognition of women's practical abilities. Filipino women function as the architects and guardians of the household economy. They demonstrate impressive economic acumen, showing particular skill at making resources stretch further than seems possible. Many Western men discover how adeptly their Filipino wives transform modest incomes into stable household economies. Like a seasoned conductor orchestrating a complex symphony, a Filipino wife brings harmony to family finances, creating a composition of stability from disparate financial elements. Michael, an American engineer who married Rosalie, a 39-year-old Filipina, experienced this firsthand. Before we met, I handled my finances, like most American men, impulsively and without much planning, he explained. Within 6 months of marriage, Rosalie had reorganized our household budget, set up systematic savings, and somehow increased our quality of life while spending less. She wasn't controlling about it. She was just incredibly skilled at resource management. This financial responsibility creates stability and security. Filipino women bring this skill set into relationships, naturally positioning themselves in roles of financial management and decision-making within the family. Rather than fighting against this natural inclination, wise Western husbands learn to appreciate and work within this dynamic. The matriarchal influence extends beyond finances. Filipino women are culturally conditioned to prioritize family, often placing family needs above career goals or personal ambitions. This family-centered approach positions women at the core of family decisions and care. They become the emotional centers of their households, maintaining relationships, resolving conflicts, and ensuring the family's overall well-being. This matriarchal influence creates a particular type of confident, decisive partner. Older Filipinas, especially, have typically spent decades developing their leadership capabilities within family systems. They've navigated countless family challenges, managed household crises, and developed the ability to make difficult decisions under pressure. These experiences forge women who know their minds and express their thoughts with conviction. The leadership qualities of Filipino wives typically manifest as a balanced approach rather than domineering control. They excel at collaborative decision-making, consulting their husbands while still maintaining their own perspective. This creates partnerships where both voices matter, but where the woman's practical wisdom often provides crucial guidance. Thomas, a British expatriate married to Maricel for 5 years, describes this balanced authority. Maricel never demands control or undermines me publicly, yet somehow she orchestrates our entire household with incredible efficiency. She respects my input, but often has superior solutions to problems. I've learned that when she suggests something, there's usually profound wisdom behind it. This complementary dynamic creates more equal partnerships than many Western men initially expect. Rather than the hierarchical relationship some men anticipate when marrying an Asian woman, they discover a balanced partnership where different strengths are recognized and valued. The Filipinas' practical leadership in household matters enhances the marriage by ensuring stability and effective resource management. The matriarchal aspect of Filipino culture also manifests in the way women foster connections between family members. They often serve as the communication hubs of extended families, maintaining relationships across generations and geographic distances. This skill at relationship management translates directly into marriage, where Filipino wives frequently excel at fostering healthy communication patterns and resolving interpersonal conflicts. Antonio, an Italian married to Jocelyn for 9 years, describes this foresight. Jocelyn has this remarkable ability to identify problems before they become crises. She doesn't just react to situations, she anticipates them. She manages our household with incredible foresight, and she's helped me become more thoughtful about planning for our future together. This natural leadership doesn't come at the expense of respect for their husbands. Filipinas typically balance their decisive nature with genuine consideration for their partner's perspective. They've mastered the art of leading without undermining, guiding without controlling, and influencing without dominating. This nuanced approach creates harmony rather than power struggles. The matriarchal influence in Filipino marriages offers unique benefits for cross-cultural relationships. Western men who appreciate this dynamic often discover that having a capable, confident partner alleviates many common relationship stresses. Rather than fighting over control, these couples develop complementary roles that leverage each partner's natural strengths. For men accustomed to shouldering all responsibility in relationships, the partnership model of Filipino marriages can bring unexpected relief. Having a partner who confidently handles household management and contributes meaningfully to decision-making creates a more balanced distribution of relationship labor, resulting in greater relationship satisfaction for both partners. Communication mastery. The Philippines' remarkable linguistic landscape offers a window into why communication with older Filipinas often feels so effortless. As the fifth largest English-speaking nation globally, with over 76% of the population understanding English, these women navigate multiple language worlds from an early age. But their communication mastery extends far beyond mere language proficiency. What truly sets apart older Filipinas in relationships is how decades of complex family negotiations have refined their ability to express themselves with both clarity and sensitivity. Unlike the more direct, sometimes confrontational communication styles common in Western relationships, mature Filipinas typically approach difficult conversations with thoughtful precision that prioritizes both honesty and harmony. After experiencing several relationship breakdowns, Michael, an American software developer who married Jasmine at 49, describes this distinctive quality. My previous relationships often devolved into heated arguments where we'd say things we regretted. With Jasmine, disagreements feel completely different. She has this remarkable ability to express exactly what bothers her without making me feel attacked. She spent years perfecting the art of honest communication without the drama. This skill develops through decades of navigating the complex social hierarchies within Filipino extended families. From an early age, Filipinas learn to communicate effectively across generational lines, balancing respect for elders with the need to express their own perspectives. By middle age, these women have typically managed countless family negotiations, mediating between children, parents, in-laws, and community members. The contrast with younger women's communication patterns becomes evident in how conflicts unfold. While younger partners might still be developing their emotional vocabulary or conflict resolution skills, older Filipinas have accumulated years of experience in addressing sensitive topics without escalation. They've learned which battles deserve attention and which are better left alone, a discernment that comes only through lived experience. During a family reunion where tensions ran high, Eduardo, who married Leticia when she was 46, observed, "My wife can communicate more in a raised eyebrow than most people can in a paragraph. She's incredibly economical with criticism, but generous with appreciation." Before I met her, I never realized how exhausting my previous relationships had been, where every minor issue turned into a major discussion. This communication effectiveness stems partly from the Filipino cultural concept of Pakikisama, or shared identity. This mindset encourages considering conversations from the perspective of maintaining relationships rather than winning arguments. Older Filipinas have had more time to internalize this cultural value, developing a communication style that preserves dignity on both sides. Their bilingual abilities contribute significantly to this communication mastery. Speaking both English and Filipino, often alongside regional dialects, gives many older Filipinas particular versatility in expression. Like a musician who can shift effortlessly between instruments, these women move between linguistic registers, choosing precisely the right words for each situation. Research suggests that multilingual individuals often develop enhanced emotional regulation and perspective-taking abilities, skills that directly translate to more effective relationship communication. The 76% English proficiency rate in the Philippines means that international couples often avoid the basic language barriers that plague many cross-cultural relationships. However, the advantage extends beyond simple translation. Having navigated between languages for decades, older Filipinas develop a heightened awareness of how words carry different emotional weights across cultures. When planning their first holiday with extended family, Sarah, from Australia, noticed this benefit in her relationship with Grace. 52, my wife instantly recognizes when something I've said might be misinterpreted. She'll pause the conversation to clarify meaning before misunderstandings take root. I didn't realize how many of my previous relationship problems stemmed from simple miscommunications until I experienced a partnership without those issues. The communication skills of mature Filipinas also reflect their cultural emphasis on long-term commitment. With marriage viewed as a sacred institution in Filipino culture, older women approach relationship discussions with an eye towards sustainable solutions rather than temporary fixes. This perspective encourages a communication style that builds bridges rather than walls. During a career crisis that tested their financial security, Robert, who married Maricel at 54, explains, "When issues arise, my wife's first instinct is to understand rather than defend. She'll say, 'Help me understand why this matters to you,' before sharing her own perspective. It completely changes the temperature of difficult conversations." This skill extends to nonverbal communication as well. Older Filipinas have typically developed an acute sensitivity to body language, tone, and context, often reading beneath the surface of conversations to address underlying concerns. This intuitive understanding helps prevent the accumulation of unspoken resentments that erode many relationships. The balance of directness and sensitivity that mature Filipinas bring to relationships provides a refreshing alternative to both overly confrontational and passive-aggressive communication styles. They express needs clearly without unnecessary harshness, creating space for honest conversations that don't leave emotional wreckage. After navigating multiple failed relationships, Thomas, from Canada, shares, "Before meeting Maribel, I thought relationship discussions had to be either brutal honesty or walking on eggshells. She showed me there's a middle path where we can address anything without making each other feel inadequate. She's found the perfect balance between saying what needs to be said and saying it in a way that can actually be heard." Older Filipinas excel at navigating culturally sensitive topics that might become landmines in international relationships. Years of cross-cultural interactions have given them practice in identifying potential misunderstandings before they occur. During a tense dinner with his traditional family, James, an Englishman married to Angelica for 7 years, notes, "My wife has an incredible knack for explaining cultural differences without making me feel ignorant. When I unintentionally commit a cultural faux pas, she addresses it privately with humor rather than embarrassment. It's made adapting to her culture so much easier than I expected." These communication skills particularly shine during life transitions and challenges. Having weathered personal and professional storms, older Filipinas approach difficult conversations with perspective rather than panic. This emotional steadiness creates space for productive problem solving rather than reactive responses. Cross-cultural adaptability. Cross-cultural relationships present challenges that go far beyond language barriers. They require partners to negotiate fundamentally different worldviews, traditions, and unspoken expectations, often without realizing these differences exist until they've already caused conflict. This is where older Filipinas demonstrate a remarkable advantage that younger partners or those from more culturally homogeneous backgrounds simply haven't had the opportunity to develop. That rare combination of communication skills becomes even more valuable when navigating the invisible cultural currents that can silently pull international relationships apart. The Philippines' position at a remarkable cultural crossroads has created a generation of older women who've been cultural code switchers their entire lives, long before they ever meet a foreign husband. This unique historical positioning explains why many Western men find that their older Filipina partners possess an almost intuitive grasp of cultural differences that most international couples spend years struggling to develop. Elena, who worked for 20 years in a multinational corporation before marrying her American husband, demonstrates this cultural bridge building firsthand. "My colleagues were surprised at how quickly David and I resolved cultural misunderstandings," she explains. "For me, navigating between Filipino and American ways of thinking was something I'd been doing professionally for decades. I knew when to be direct like an American and when to be subtle like a Filipina." For older Filipinas, this cultural dexterity has been refined through decades of practical experience. Many have worked in international companies, interacted with foreign visitors, or maintained connections with family members living abroad. Women in their 40s and 50s have typically mastered the subtle art of cultural code switching, seamlessly adjusting their communication style, social expectations, and behavior to match different cultural contexts. The Philippines' complex colonial history has created one of the world's most culturally adaptable populations. The country exists at a unique intersection where indigenous traditions blend with Spanish colonial influences and American cultural imports. This historical legacy means that Filipinos have been navigating between different cultural frameworks for generations, adapting to new influences while maintaining their core identity. This adaptability transcends surface-level awareness, manifesting in practical ways that smooth the daily interactions of international marriages. When Robert first visited his now-wife Mariana's family in Manila, he worried about potential cultural missteps. I was overthinking everything: how to greet her parents, whether to bring gifts, how formal to be, he recalls. But Mariana guided me effortlessly, explaining which Filipino customs were important to observe and which ones I could relax about. She knew exactly which cultural differences might actually cause problems. What makes this adaptability valuable is that it operates bi-directionally. Older Filipinos maintain their cultural identity while simultaneously helping their partners navigate Filipino customs. This balance creates genuine cultural exchange rather than one-sided assimilation. Anthony, married to 47-year-old Christina, describes this balance. Christina has introduced Filipino traditions into our home in ways that feel natural. She's taught me to appreciate aspects of Filipino culture I never would have discovered on my own, while also incorporating elements of my British background into our life together. We've created our own unique cultural blend. This cultural flexibility extends to family relationships as well. Western men often worry about navigating the complexities of their partner's extended family, especially given the importance of family in Filipino culture. Older Filipinos typically excel at mediating these relationships, helping their foreign partners understand unspoken family expectations while also explaining their partner's cultural differences to family members. Research consistently shows that cross-cultural couples face higher rates of conflict, primarily due to unresolved cultural differences. The hospitality and warmth characteristic of Filipino culture becomes a powerful tool in these marriages, as older Filipinos create welcoming environments where their partners absorb cultural knowledge organically, reducing adaptation stress. Thomas experienced this when introducing his American children from a previous marriage to his new Filipino family. My wife Jenny's anticipated potential misunderstandings before they happened, he explained. She prepared my children for Filipino customs that might seem strange to them, and she prepared her family to understand American teenagers' need for independence. She created space for everyone to be themselves while still feeling connected. What's particularly valuable about this adaptability is how it transforms potential conflict points into opportunities for connection. David describes how his wife Marisol prevented what could have been a serious conflict. I was frustrated by how often her family called and expected us to attend events. In my American mindset, this seemed intrusive. Instead of insisting I was wrong, Marisol helped me understand the importance of these connections in Filipino culture while also establishing some boundaries with her family. She found a middle ground that respected both our needs. This cultural bridge building becomes evident during major life transitions. When John's mother became ill, requiring relocation to Australia, his wife, Isabella, demonstrated remarkable flexibility. She immediately adapted to Australian social norms, building relationships with my family and neighbors, John recalls. At the same time, she maintained connections to her Filipino community and brought elements of Filipino care practices into how we supported my mother. She created a bridge between cultures during one of the most stressful periods of our marriage. This adaptability extends to broader social integration as well. Many Western men appreciate how their older Filipino partners help them build connections within both expatriate and local communities, creating richer, more diverse support networks. Perhaps most importantly, this cultural adaptability fosters genuine curiosity and mutual growth. William describes how his relationship with Carmen has expanded his worldview. Carmen's openness to different cultural perspectives has inspired me to be more curious about the world. We're constantly learning from each other, finding the best aspects of both our cultures. Our relationship feels like an ongoing conversation between worlds, financial wisdom and practicality. That ongoing conversation between worlds extends beyond cultural traditions into something many couples find even more challenging to navigate: money management. What happens when someone raised in an economy of scarcity partners with someone from a culture of abundance? The answer reveals why many Western men find financial harmony with older Filipinas when financial disagreements remain the leading cause of divorce in their home countries. The economic landscape of the Philippines shapes financial behaviors in ways that many Westerners struggle to fully comprehend until they witness it firsthand. In a developing economy where resources are consistently limited, the daily reality demands a level of financial ingenuity that becomes second nature to those who live there. This environment necessitates a comprehensive approach to resource management that becomes deeply embedded in one's worldview. For many older Filipinas, growing up meant watching every peso, finding creative ways to extend resources, and developing an almost intuitive sense for distinguishing between essential needs and discretionary wants. These are survival skills honed through decades of practical application. When these women enter international marriages, they bring this financial acumen as perhaps their most undervalued asset. Daniel, a 47-year-old accountant from Boston, discovered this after marrying Angelina, who was 43 when they met. "I thought I understood money management since I literally do it professionally," he explains. "But Angelina showed me an entirely different dimension of financial thinking. She can stretch our budget in ways I never imagined possible without feeling deprived." What's more remarkable is how she turned our household finances into a collaborative project rather than a source of tension. This collaborative approach represents a significant shift from what many Western men experience in their home countries. While financial disagreements top the list of marriage stresses in America and Europe, older Filipinas often bring a refreshingly practical perspective that prioritizes financial security over consumption-based satisfaction. Like navigating a well-planned journey, financial harmony requires both a clear destination and adaptable navigation. Older Filipinas excel at this balance. Greg, an Australian business owner, noted how his marriage to Layla transformed his financial outlook. "Before meeting my wife, I followed the typical Western pattern: earn, spend, worry about tomorrow, later. Layla introduced me to financial planning that creates genuine security. She helped me understand that true financial freedom isn't about what you can buy, but what you don't need to worry about." This financial pragmatism emerges directly from the economic environment of the Philippines. When daily life requires stretching limited resources across extended family needs, women develop exceptional skills in budget management, creative problem solving, and long-term planning. These abilities translate remarkably well to international households, often balancing consumption-oriented Western approaches. Peter, a Canadian engineer who married Sophia when she was 48, describes this balance. "Sophia doesn't oppose spending on quality or experiences that matter to us. Instead, she brings thoughtfulness to our decisions. Before her, I'd make impulsive purchases without considering their long-term impact. Now, our financial conversations focus on aligning our spending with our values and future goals. It's actually liberating." The journey to financial stability becomes smoother when both navigators read from the same map. This value-based approach to finances reflects another important aspect of the financial wisdom older Filipinos bring to international marriages: their ability to separate financial worth from self-worth. In societies where conspicuous consumption often serves as a status marker, this perspective offers a healthy alternative that reduces financial pressure and relationship tension. Martin, who married Jocelyn after his divorce from his American wife, noted this difference explicitly. With my ex, our financial discussions always became emotionally charged because spending was tied to self-image and status. With Jocelyn, money conversations are remarkably straightforward. She approaches finances as a practical tool for building our life together, not as a reflection of our worth or success. Beyond daily management, older Filipinos often bring sophisticated resource pooling strategies that enhance family financial resilience. Growing up in communities where resources are shared across extended families creates a natural understanding of how collaborative financial approaches can provide greater security than individualistic ones. Henry, a British consultant, experienced this shift after marrying Teresa. I was initially uncomfortable with Teresa's suggestion to completely merge our finances and create a single family budget. In my previous relationship, we maintained separate accounts and split expenses. 2 years into this new approach, I've seen how our financial intimacy has strengthened our partnership and actually improved our overall financial position. Every financial decision becomes a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. The experience of economic uncertainty frequently creates a natural inclination toward diversified saving strategies. Adrian, a German engineer who married Christina when she was 51, discovered this aspect of his wife's financial acumen. Christina suggested we diversify our savings across multiple investment vehicles, including some I hadn't considered. Her approach wasn't based on investment theory, but on practical experience managing through economic uncertainties in the Philippines. Her instincts have proven remarkably sound even during market downturns. These practical financial skills are often complemented by a cultural emphasis on responsible resource management. Many older Filipinos view financial stewardship as a moral responsibility rather than simply a practical concern. This value-based approach frequently resonates with Western partners seeking greater meaning in their financial lives. Nathan, an American entrepreneur married to Marisol, reflects, "Marisol helped me see that how we manage our resources reflects our deeper values. Her approach to money is about ensuring our financial decisions align with what we believe about community responsibility and family care. It's given our financial life a purpose beyond just accumulation." Perhaps most significantly, older Filipinos often bring a balanced perspective that integrates traditional thrift with modern financial approaches. Victor, who married Lorena after meeting her through mutual friends, notes this balance. Lorena is incredibly resourceful with our day-to-day expenses, finding ways to reduce waste and unnecessary spending. But she's also forward-thinking about investing in experiences and opportunities that enrich our lives. He distinguishes between meaningless consumption and meaningful investment better than anyone I've known. Emotional intelligence and relationship clarity. Beyond resourceful money management lies an even more valuable form of maturity. The development of emotional intelligence represents perhaps the most significant advantage that comes with age, one that transforms how a person handles their finances and navigates every aspect of a relationship. Emotional intelligence encompasses several critical components: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, social skills, and motivation. While everyone possesses these qualities to some degree, they require cultivation through life experience to reach their full potential. For many older Filipinos, decades of navigating personal and professional relationships have served as a masterclass in understanding both their own emotional landscape and the emotions of others around them. This emotional journey creates a profound difference in relationship dynamics. When a man builds a life with a woman who has already completed significant emotional development, the partnership often feels remarkably different from the start. Rather than two people simultaneously trying to discover themselves while building a relationship, one partner brings a fully formed emotional foundation to the table. Consider the contrast with relationships involving younger partners. In many cases, those in their 20s and early 30s are still actively defining their identities, testing boundaries, and determining what they truly need from a partner. This ongoing process of self-discovery, while natural and important, can create relationship turbulence, as personal growth sometimes conflicts with relationship stability. Older Filipinos, having navigated decades of personal challenges, often arrive at relationships with a much clearer sense of self. This self-knowledge translates directly into relationship clarity. They know what they want, what they can offer, and what boundaries must be maintained for their well-being. They bring this wisdom as a foundational element from day one. Michael, who married Jasmine when she was 49, describes this clarity. There's no guesswork about what matters to her. When we met, Jasmine already understood her non-negotiables versus where she could be flexible. That clarity made our early relationship smoother than previous ones where we both had to figure out those boundaries through conflict. This self-awareness extends into communication patterns. Having experienced numerous relationship dynamics over decades, older Filipinos typically develop nuanced communication skills that allow them to express needs without creating unnecessary tension. They've learned the difference between productive discussions and pointless arguments, choosing their battles wisely. Eduardo, whose marriage to 46-year-old Leticia spans 12 years, notes, "When something bothers her, Leticia addresses it directly, but with remarkable sensitivity to timing and context. She never stores up complaints to use as ammunition later. There's a wisdom in how she communicates that I've never experienced with younger partners. Like a sturdy foundation supports a building through storms and earthquakes. Emotional maturity provides stability during relationship challenges." Studies consistently demonstrate a positive correlation between emotional maturity and relationship satisfaction. Emotionally mature individuals can identify emotions accurately, regulate their responses appropriately, and approach conflict as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat. This foundation of emotional intelligence allows older Filipinos to provide intuitive support during difficult times. Their well-developed empathy skills allow them to sense when their partner needs encouragement, space, or practical assistance without requiring explicit requests. Sarah, an Australian married to 52-year-old Grace, describes this emotional attunement. Grace seems to have an almost supernatural ability to sense my emotional state. She knows when I need to talk versus when I need quiet processing time. That kind of emotional intelligence develops through years of paying attention to others. Building on this empathetic foundation, many older Filipinos bring realistic expectations about relationships. They've moved beyond idealized notions of romantic love to embrace a more grounded understanding of partnership. They recognize that lasting relationships require ongoing effort, compromise, and commitment to growth from both parties. This perspective shift removes much of the disappointment that can plague younger relationships when reality fails to match fantasy. Instead of becoming disillusioned when the initial romantic intensity naturally evolves, older Filipinos understand this evolution as a normal progression rather than relationship failure. From this realistic viewpoint comes effective conflict management. With decades of experience navigating disagreements, older Filipinos typically employ strategies for addressing problems without escalation. This skill allows them to maintain emotional equilibrium during disagreements, focusing on solutions rather than assigning blame. Robert, who married 54-year-old Maricel after a difficult divorce, highlights, "In my previous marriage, disagreements inevitably became about winning or losing. With Maricel, conflicts feel completely different. They're about understanding each other and finding a path forward. Her emotional stability during disagreements transformed my view of what conflict in marriage could look like." The emotional maturity developed over decades enables many older Filipinas to balance authentic expression with emotional control. They communicate feelings honestly without allowing emotions to override rational thinking or respectful communication. Thomas, a Canadian married to Maribel, describes this approach. "Maribel never suppresses her feelings, but she also never lets them control her actions. She can be upset about something I've done while still treating me with fundamental respect. That ability to feel deeply while maintaining emotional responsibility is remarkable." This balanced emotional regulation culminates in clarity about relationship values. Older Filipinos typically understand what truly matters in sustainable partnerships, often prioritizing respect, commitment, shared purpose, and mutual support over superficial qualities. James, an Englishman married to Angelica for 7 years, reflects, "Angelica focuses on the fundamentals of our relationship, how we treat each other, how we handle stress together, how we support each other's growth. She doesn't get distracted by minor irritations. Her emotional wisdom helps us both stay focused on what genuinely matters." This progression of emotional intelligence, from self-awareness through communication, realistic expectations, conflict management, emotional balance, to value clarity, creates partnerships characterized by remarkable stability. The drama and emotional turmoil often present in less emotionally developed relationships is notably absent, replaced by a steady foundation that weathers life's challenges. Carlos, a Spanish businessman married to 51-year-old Elena, summarizes, "The emotional steadiness Elena brings creates a sense of safety we never knew was possible. We can face anything because our relationship itself isn't constantly in question. Her emotional intelligence means we solve problems together instead of creating new ones." Traditional values with modern perspective. That emotional steadiness Carlos values doesn't emerge in isolation. It's rooted in something truly distinctive about older Filipinas. Having witnessed the dramatic transformation of their country from traditional to globalized in a single generation, these women have developed an extraordinary cultural dexterity. They can honor deeply held cultural roots while comfortably embracing necessary change, creating a balanced approach to life that's increasingly rare in our polarized world. This cultural balancing act manifests in how older Filipinas approach tradition. Core Filipino values remain central to their lives. Respect for elders, expressed through terms like po and opo, family unity, and religious faith. However, they interpret these values through a contemporary lens. While family remains paramount, many embrace more flexible family structures and support their children's modern life choices, even when these differ from historical expectations. Marianne, 47, exemplifies this cultural dexterity through her Sunday family gatherings, a tradition spanning 3 generations. What makes her approach special is how she preserves the essence of family togetherness while adapting to modern realities. She uses video calls to include her daughter studying abroad, maintaining their connection across continents. When her son introduced his American fiancée, Marianne welcomed her by teaching traditional Filipino cooking techniques, the same recipes her grandmother taught her, while simultaneously learning about her future daughter-in-law's holiday customs. During Christmas, Marianne now places traditional Filipino paroles, star lanterns, alongside American holiday decorations suggested by her daughter-in-law. Through these thoughtful adaptations, Marianne creates an environment where traditions evolve rather than disappear, strengthening family bonds across cultures and generations. The concept of utang na loob, debt of gratitude, further illustrates this balance. This deeply ingrained value emphasizes reciprocity in relationships. In modern contexts, older Filipinos apply this principle as thoughtful consideration rather than burden. Richard, from Australia, observed this in his wife Eliza. She has this remarkable way of honoring commitments to family while establishing healthy boundaries. When her cousin needed temporary housing, she helped without hesitation, but clearly defined the arrangement's terms and timeline. It was compassionate, yet practical. This ability to maintain cultural identity while embracing new realities stems from navigating decades of rapid societal transformation. Women now in their 40s and 50s grew up during periods of significant change in the Philippines, from economic restructuring to technological revolution. They've witnessed traditions both sustained and adapted, giving them nuanced understanding of which cultural elements remain relevant. David, an American married to 54-year-old Mia, notes this perspective's impact. Mia brings incredible wisdom about when to hold firm and when to adapt. During conflicts, she'll explain the value behind her position, but is equally comfortable saying, "Perhaps we can find a new approach here." It creates this beautiful dance between stability and growth. The research highlights another dimension of this cultural dexterity, the Filipino approach to time. While Western cultures often emphasize rigid scheduling, Filipino culture traditionally embraces a more fluid relationship with time. Older Filipinas navigate both worlds, understanding Western time expectations in professional settings while maintaining appreciation for moments unfolding naturally in personal contexts. Matthew, from Canada, shares how this balanced approach enhanced his marriage to Diana. "Before meeting Diana, I was obsessively scheduled, everything planned to the minute. She taught me that while organization matters for important commitments, some of life's most meaningful moments can't be scheduled. We now have this wonderful rhythm where certain traditions are honored precisely while other experiences unfold organically. This integration extends into broader social perspectives. Many older Filipinos maintain deep respect for community cohesion, a traditional Filipino value, while embracing modern ideas about individual fulfillment. Fernando, a Spanish entrepreneur married to Isabel, describes this as her superpower. Isabel maintains beautiful Filipino traditions around hospitality and community care, while also supporting individual dreams and pursuing her own passions. She bridges worlds that many people see as contradictory, but she experiences as complementary. The balancing particularly shines in approaches to gender roles. Rather than rigidly adhering to historical expectations or completely abandoning tradition, older Filipinos typically create nuanced partnerships honoring cultural heritage while embracing equality. Joseph, an architect from the UK, explains how his wife, Angelina, navigates this terrain. She values certain traditional aspects of Filipino marriage, the emphasis on family connection and creating a welcoming home, but she's also adamant about equal decision-making and sharing household responsibilities. It's never ideological, always practical and rooted in what works for us. This cultural dexterity extends to conflict resolution, blending traditional Filipino approaches to harmony with modern emphasis on honest expression. William, who married Sophia after his divorce, notes, "Sophia has this gentle yet persistent way of addressing problems. She chooses the right moment, acknowledges everyone's perspective, and guides us toward resolution without dramatic confrontation. It's this perfect middle path I never knew existed." What makes this balance particularly valuable in international relationships is how it creates bridges between different worldviews. The cultural flexibility of older Filipinos creates space for genuine exchange rather than rigid accommodation. Both partners can preserve what matters most while growing together through thoughtful adaptation. This integration creates relationships with unique advantages, maintaining stability, commitment, and community connection, often associated with traditional marriages, while incorporating equality, personal growth, and adaptability valued in contemporary partnerships. As Thomas from Germany reflects about his marriage to Maria, we have this solid foundation of shared values about loyalty and family. But there's also this wonderful openness to growth. Our relationship feels both deeply rooted and constantly evolving. It's exactly what I didn't know I was looking for. We've explored many facets of what makes older Filipinos exceptional partners, but their unique convergence of qualities creates something truly remarkable. Their combination of earned wisdom, cultural depth, and emotional intelligence forms a foundation for relationships that many find unmatched elsewhere. Consider this: what potential connections might you miss due to arbitrary age preferences? The qualities sustaining lifelong happiness develop through life's journey. The most fulfilling relationships emerge from unexpected places. By expanding your perspective, you might discover a partner far more wonderful than initially imagined. Will you take this step toward transformation and allow yourself to explore beyond conventional parameters?